Hey, everybody. Welcome to a post-mortem edition of the Bird Brains with Ken and Mark. Ken Dunek, Mark Eckel. Going to talk about a loss. Mark, we were talking before the show started here that uh, to me, it's disappointing, but not totally unexpected. You seem to be a little more surprised than I am, but I thought the Eagles' inconsistencies, especially on offense throughout the year, could come back to bite them, and it's really exactly what happened yesterday.
Oh, that's exactly what happened. I just thought I always looked at playoff games for all the years I covered the team and the years they made the playoffs, and not just Eagle any playoff game. I always called it the three H's: who's hot, who's healthy, and who's home. And Eagles had all three of them going for them. I thought they had played better the last month
Hmm.
of the season. I thought they did correct. Now I'm not counting that last game because they didn't play anybody, but prior to that, I thought they put some things together. They looked a little better in some areas. San Francisco, I watched them against Seattle the last, in what was a big game for them. Where if they won, they wouldn't have had to play this weekend. They looked awful to me.
Hmm.
3 points, which is the least amount of points they had scored under Shanahan since his first game ever.
Tells you how good that Seattle defense is, though.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking now. Yeah, but they were talk about health. San Francisco's a mass unit, right? I mean, they have
I'll say Joey Bosa, Fred Warner, Brandon Ayuk, Mikael Williams, and George Kittle tears his Achilles in the first half. I
so I
mean,
mean,
they overcame.
much healthier Eagles and home. The Niners are traveling. I always like a home team when the team has to come across the country to play
Me
it.
too.
So there was a lot. I thought there was a lot going in the Eagles factor. I thought they got the right team at the right time. I thought, silly me, I thought the offense would, find a way, and they did a little bit. They early they looked pretty good, but then
Again, the first half, second half they shut down. The Lane Johnson thing bothered me a little bit because I was looking forward to him playing in the game. He practiced all week. He developed swelling in the foot on Saturday, and they ruled him out actually on Saturday night.
right.
But then I was thinking, well, how really effective could Lane Johnson be if he was that compromised, even if he was able to suck it up and play? And then, you can talk all you want about the coaching, and we're going to talk at length about the coaching and the lack of originality on offense, but players still have to make plays. And I thought Jalen Hurts was subpar yesterday. I thought A.J. Brown, this should be his swan song because if he's a big time receiver, you don't drop two or three balls in a game where you got to advance. Devontae Smith, I thought dropped one. Maybe he should have caught that second one. Would have been a tough catch. Barkley drops a ball, a swing pass out of the backfield. It probably would have resulted on first down. So you can blame the coaching all you want, but if you don't execute plays, you're not going to win.
That's why I didn't blame Hurts as much. I mean, add those 4 catches to his numbers, all of a sudden he has 4 more completions for a whole mess of more yards, and
Right.
who knows? I didn't. Yeah, I think to be honest, Hurts is the least guy that I would blame for this one. The receiver, yeah, AJ Brown looked like he wanted to be somewhere else. That he just didn't.
Well, I think he is going to be somewhere else. He
Yeah.
doesn't bother to. He doesn't bother to meet the media after the game. He's got an argument with Sirianni.
Yeah, what was that all about?
He
Sirianni said,
doesn't. He's
I didn't
not
like
hustling
Sirianni.
off the field. On one of the rare times the Eagles punt during the season, he's not hustling off the field. Sirianni jumps him for it,
That's what he said.
and they get into it. Yeah, who
I
knows?
don't believe that because they were still fighting when he was off the field.
Well, so you're a conspiracy theorist when it comes to.
No, I just don't believe anything Nick Sirianni says.
Oh, wait, we're going to get into that at length. But first, let me thank our sponsors. First of all, this podcast is a product of Sweet Recording Studios. If you want to do a podcast, contact Joe Gangemi at sweetrecording.com. He'll do a great job and take care of you. Chris Wilhelm of Citywide Mortgage. If you have a home financial mortgage need, please contact Chris Wilhelm at 609-234-4304, and he will do a good job for you, that I promise. Tony DiGirolamo of DiGirolamo Financial. He handles finances. He handles financial advice. He handles insurance. It's truly a one-stop shop for all your financial and insurance needs. Contact Tony D at 609-541-7515. And Kelly at Adjust Your Sleep Mattress Boutique in Marlton. I've been to this showroom. They've got a mattress that will fit every need. Kelly can be contacted at 609-541-7515. Set up your appointment with Kelly today. And then finally, Jersey Man Magazine, the new issue is out, and it's for free on our website, jerseymanmagazine.com. We've got a great story on Jillian Mealy and Howie Roseman, and Mark wrote a great piece on all the young, good players in Philadelphia. And please stop by that website and check out the magazine for free, jerseymanmagazine.com. Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts of this thing. I wrote down some game notes and a couple things, and I'll just go one at a time, and you can chime in, Mark. Quinyon Mitchell actually got beat twice pretty badly in that game at the beginning, but he can't come back and has 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery. Now there's a guy you want to build around because he gives you a supreme effort every week.
No, he's one of the top corners in the league. You mentioned my list. I think I had him number 2 on the best young players in the city. There's nothing. No, yes, he did get beat, but listen, corners get beat in this league. The greatest.
You know what? It's so surprising that he so rarely gets beat.
Right, that's a shock. Yeah, right. They're like, it's a story when he gets, but that tells me how good he is. He gets beat early in that. Was the second play of the game, third, whatever it was.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of guys, guys that aren't as tough as him, mentally tough, they might sulk about that the rest of the game and turn into a really, really bad game. No, he bounces back and picks off a couple passes. Yeah. I thought that was going to win the game for
him. The secondary?
No.
The other way. Well, listen, they won the turnover battle 2-zip. Normally when you do that, that's a great sign. Yeah. How about Dallas Goedert? 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing. They almost didn't bring him back this year. I think they got to bring him back next year.
Well, now they got to sign him.
Unless they drafted, a tight end high. Calcaterra is not a good enough blocker. I mean, Goddard's not a great blocker either, but he's marginal, but he can get it done. And I don't know enough about the other backup tight ends to make a decision on whether they can be the guy.
I texted you during the game when I said that about after Goddard scored the touchdown, and I said, man, good thing they didn't. They tried to trade him. They were offering him. They just probably wanted a little more than teams are willing to give, I guess, because he was going into the last year of his deal, and they probably, how the Eagles are. They like to be ahead of the curve, and which isn't a bad thing. You trade a guy while you can get something for, but it didn't work out. It did work out because as you texted back to me, he might be their MVP.
Yes. Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think he is the MVP from a production standpoint. I think he set the tight end record for touchdowns for the Eagles this year. And
I was surprised he didn't have that.
Well, listen, it wasn't my fault. Vermeil didn't put me in the game enough.
Exactly, right? Practice. You got a lot of touchdowns in practice, I heard.
Yes. Oh yeah, I was practicing practice. What do you do with Jake Elliott? Misses another extra point. It comes back to haunt him at the end of the game. We can kick a tying field goal. I know it was windy, but I was talking to some of my sources who were at the game. It was windier more up top where the flags were blowing. Down low, it was a little bit windy, but it wasn't terrible. What do you do with Jake Elliott?
I don't know. I thought he had corrected his. I know he had that bad slump in the middle, but then I thought he had corrected himself the last couple of games he made. I don't think he missed anything the last couple of weeks. At worst, you bring in somebody else to compete with him next year. You don't hand him the job for sure. Now, you could. I mean, if you want to move on from him, I don't know. He's not a free agent. I think he's still under contract.
I'd have to check on that.
So I don't think you just cut him loose, but you bring him to camp just like everybody else. But you have a legitimate kicking competition. I don't mean some kid that from off the street. You maybe use a low pick on them. The Eagles have a bunch of picks next year, right?
Yeah.
I know they traded a couple away, but I think they still have a bunch of 6s and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe use one of those picks on a kicker. They don't have a lot of holes to fill, so maybe use a pick on a kicker and hey, you battled out in camp. Best man wins.
What do you want to do with A.J. Brown? He has a couple of drops yesterday. He gets into it with Sirianni on the sideline. I mean, I think we both agreed that it's time for him to go, right?
Yeah, enough said. I mean, listen, he's a great player. And I'm not downgrading him as a player, but like I said before, it looks like he doesn't want to be there, it seems like. Something happened. Something happened along the way that I don't know if it's him and Jalen or him and Nick or him and somebody, but he's not happy. He's just not he's not happy where he is. And don't get me, there'll be a lot. I mean, they're not going to get as much as they should because other teams know what's going on. But there'll be more than a handful. There'll be quite a few teams. If the Eagles make it clear that they're willing to move him, Howie's phone's going to be ringing.
That little blow up on the sideline kind of proved to me the difference in football in my day and now, because had a player ran at Dick Vermeil and challenged him like that, he wouldn't play. And I don't care if it was Jaworski or Montgomery. I mean, you were just on the side, and now it's like, oh yeah, he's still my guy. We still like
love each other.
You have to placate these guys because the money that's invested in them by the organization. It takes a little bit of the decisions out of the coach's hands, really.
Oh yeah, but I like, again, getting back to, I think AJ Brown will be on a different team prior to the draft.
What about the lack of a pass rush by the Eagles front four? I noticed Fangio had to try to blitz a couple times in the second half to try to get some heat on the quarterback, but Purdy looked really comfortable out there.
Yeah, that's another part of the game that I thought the Eagles had the advantage. I mean, that front had been playing a lot better. When Carter was back, he was healthy. The Hunt kid had been playing really well. Jordan Davis, he had a very good year, probably his best year.
Definitely big improvement.
Yeah, so and
he's never been a run pass. He's never been a pass rush.
No, but this year he showed a little bit. Mojo or whatever. They had I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm a little surprised. I didn't think San Francisco was. I thought they were playing the perfect team at the perfect time. I really did. I thought that. Now I didn't say that. I didn't know what was going to happen after this game, and I think going to Chicago wouldn't have been as easy as a lot of people think, or hosting the Rams wouldn't have been. I thought moving forward it was going to get tougher, but I thought they were going to win this game. I really, really did. I didn't think San Francisco. Hey, listen, Kyle Shanahan's a pretty darn good coach. Let's just leave it at that. And I told you last week, he's 7-0 in his first game, whether it's a wild card game or a division game. He's now he's 7-0. He when he gets in the playoffs, he usually gets pretty far. So
we're going to talk about the offensive coaching here in a second, but what do you do with Reed Blankenship? He's at the end of his deal. He obviously can't cover the reason, and he's a good hitter. He comes up and does great in run support, but the cover two that Vic plays kind of masks him from having to cover man to man, and it's obvious when he does have to do it, he's just not good enough. It was a big PI or a holding penalty in the game yesterday that cost the Eagles a sack. And what do you do with a guy like Blankenship?
I want him on my team because I think there are things he does well, but you might have. I mean, I'm not giving. He's a free agent, you said, right? So I'm not breaking the bank to keep him. Let's see what his agent asks for. I think the Eagles they're okay cap wise. I mean, they don't have a ton to spend, but they don't have many other guys to worry about, I don't think. You might want to add another safety. I mean, listen, they drafted the kid in the second round last year, right? And he got hurt. So yeah, so he's your future, I would think. If you spend a second round pick on him, that's the guy that you want going forward. I think Blankenship's a good role player. Now, again, it depends on what he thinks he's worth. If he wants, good money, he might have to get it somewhere else.
So let's talk about the offensive line coming back next year. They had a down year this year. Lane Johnson hurt again for half the season.
You got to go.
Can you count on Lane Johnson to come back next year and play?
He should retire.
Tyler Steen at the right guard position. Juergens and Dickerson have shown prone to injury. I think the offensive line is something that the Eagles have to look at this offseason.
Oh, I will be very surprised if their first round pick isn't an offensive line. I'll be again, you don't know how the board falls, but all things being equal, I think that's what, I mean, you never reach. I mean, if 8 offensive linemen go off the board for some reason before you pick, you don't reach and take the 9th best when there's a real good defensive player there maybe or something. But if they don't get one in the first round, then they definitely got to get one in the second. I mean, they need some good young offense. I mean, not that they're old, but Lane's done. Let's be honest. Greg, it's time. He should retire. You really should. Why do you want to put yourself through this? I know players never want to give up, but the man's had a great career. He's won 2 Super Bowls. He's one of the few guys that were on both teams. You know, I mean, if you want to still walk when you're 40, maybe it's time to give up, right? I mean, enjoy yourself now. Kelsey, Kelsey left only after 1 Super Bowl.
Definitely a Hall of Fame candidate. Given the steroid situation,
that's my thing, but
that could hurt him.
Yeah. Apparently not. If he played baseball, it would, but he doesn't. He plays football. Football doesn't seem to care about guys that cheated.
All right, listen. Everybody wants to talk about coaching, and we're going to start today. And we've got a clip that Joe will be ready to run here in a second. I want to show you the last play, the last offensive play for the Eagles. Now, number one, they had to burn a timeout, which proved to be very costly because they still had 3 timeouts left. They're inside the 2-minute warning. Had they failed on this 4th and 11, they still could have stopped the clock 3 times and gotten the ball back with maybe 30 seconds left in fairly good field position. Okay, so that timeout was costly. Now, Joe, I want you to run the clip of the meeting, the timeout meeting between Hurts and Patullo and Sirianni. Now, as the camera pans around, you see Patullo talking to Hurts with the game card. Nick Sirianni is barely in the conversation. He doesn't even have a play sheet. He can't give any recommendations on what play to call. He's the head coach of a team that's about to get bounced from the playoffs. Don't you have a more active role in that conversation if you're Nick Sirianni when your season's on the line?
You're asking me this? Yeah. This is shocking as the loss. I mean, and he's an offensive guy.
Mark, he's barely in the conversation. He's not in his, maybe that works. I mean, no, that's not what a head coach does.
Not a head coach whose specialty is offense, right? I mean, if he was a defensive-minded head coach, you'd think, okay, well, he lets his offensive guy run the offense, and I'll just sit back and listen because it's not my thing. He's supposed to be an offensive-minded head coach, and obviously he's not involved in that play at all.
I just thought that clip just said it all as far as the Eagles are concerned. So I think we're both in agreement that Kevin Patullo has got to go, even if Sirianni digs his feet in the ground and says, Patullo's my guy, does it cost him the head coaching job just like it cost Doug Peterson several years ago?
That's the fascinating part of this offseason that I want to see how it develops, because you got to think, and listen, we know how Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie operate. This is their team. That's why they hire guys like.
That's right. That's exactly right.
They don't hire. That's why people are talking about Harbaugh. Harbaugh isn't coming here.
No. You think Harbaugh's going to listen to what Howie?
No. And I don't blame him. He's earned the right not to have to do that.
He's earned the right to have leverage. He should use it.
He's not going to work for Howie, or anybody. Not just he's not going to work for Joe Shane with the Giants. He's not. No, if you're hiring Harbaugh, he's going to be like Andy. You're going to make him the guy, and then he'll pick the personnel guy to work for him. But,
listen. Lurie's from Boston. He didn't think about Bill Belichick as the coach because Belichick's going to run the organization.
Right. If you're bringing in a guy like that, Howie's gone, and that's not going to happen. So. No, so forget that kind of talk. Now, it leads us to what we said about Doug. When they hired Doug, he was a nobody. He was Andy's assistant, but everybody knows.
He was a quarterback coach. He wasn't even offensive.
No, he was coordinator. He was coordinator, but he wasn't in name only because Andy runs the offense. He called plays. He never called plays. Same with Sirianni. He worked under Frank Reich in Indianapolis, not an offensive guy. So they hired these guys. And listen, they both won Super Bowls. Great hires, right? But they didn't have any. They were just happy to be head coaches. So they listened. When they hired Doug Peterson, I was still covering the team then. They hired Jim Schwartz as defensive coordinator before they hired Doug. So Doug had no say in who his defensive coordinator was because they already hired him. So, and he was fine with that because he was getting a head coaching job, right? One of 32 people. But then Doug wins the Super Bowl. So he thinks, all right, I've earned my stripes now, right? I can at least pick my staff. Well,
especially my offensive coordinator.
Yeah, right. Well, he was wrong because he wanted, I believe it was Press Taylor.
Yes.
Okay, they brought him in after the season. It was a bad season. They bring him in. All right, we're going to make changes on the staff. Who do you want to be your offense coordinator? He said, I want I'm going to promote press or keep whatever it was. They said, no, you're not. We want this guy, whoever they wanted. Or Doug did dig in and say, no, if I'm coaching, I want my guy. And as we know, it didn't work out. They mutually parted ways, and Doug ended up in Jacksonville. So let's see if Nick. I got a feeling they're going to say the same thing to Nick.
I do too, and I think Nick will buckle because I do. I think, and even though he would get another head coaching job,
sure.
and it's a great year, there's a lot of jobs out there. I don't think he wants to risk the position as head coach of the Eagles. Let's talk about.
Well, he gets rid of his guy, and how you? You think because Patul and him are tight? They're tighter than Doug and Press Taylor were. They've been together.
If push comes to shove, I think that Nick will fire Patullo to keep his job. That is what I think will happen.
I'm not sure. I'm really not. I don't. I think he's going to try his best to save Patullo somehow. Maybe keep him, but with a fancy, assistant head coach.
Well, that's possible, but he's not going to be the play caller next year.
Okay,
that's obvious. Yeah, to me.
Well,
talk about some
plays.
What's that?
Why doesn't Nick just call the plays?
Well, he used to.
I know.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't get this whole thing. I don't get it. I just don't. But
all I know is if I'm the head coach and my season is on the line, I have a play sheet, and I'm telling those guys what to do. Okay, that's the only. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but that much I know. All right, let's talk about potential replacements for Patullo. You got Mike McDaniel out there. You got Mike McCarthy, who's talking to some teams about a head guy. No, I get it. I'm just going through some names here. Frank Reich has a history with the organization. You're sneering, like Frank Reich. Would Doug Peterson think about coming back? I'm not sure Doug is going to get another shot. I think he's too young to retire. You don't like the last two names?
Well, I don't want. I mean, Doug's not going to want to work for Nick. I mean, I know he says what he says, but you don't bring.
It's amazing what $2 or $3 million a year will do to.
Yeah, but there's other jobs. There's other jobs where I don't know. I don't know if I never got fired from a job, but if I got fired from my job covering the Eagles back in the day, and then they replaced me with some other guy, and then they want to bring me back to be his backup, right? No, it's not fair to him or me. That's just my take. I wouldn't go back to the paper that fired me. I'd go to another paper. Like you said, a lot of money could change. If they offer me crazy money, I might have. I don't know.
I'm in agreement, Mark, but it's fun to talk about.
Oh yeah. I think there's a lot of offensive-minded coaches that are available. Todd Monken, who was with Harbaugh now.
So talk about offensive-minded coaches. Look at the dichotomy between the Eagles' offense and San Francisco's offense. Look at the trick play that they run in that game yesterday that scores a touchdown. Look at what Ben Johnson has done to the Chicago Bears offense. I mean, it's night and day ahead of where the Eagles are. That's why I'm not in favor of guys losing their job, but Kevin Patullo had every opportunity with some good talent on offense to make this thing a running machine, and it just didn't happen. And I don't think it's going to happen unless he has some kind of epiphany.
Yeah, this team has way too much talent on all. It's not a lack of talent. You have a quarterback that I think is very, very good. I know some people, we've had this discussion through the year. Hurts is very good. There aren't many I would take. There aren't many quarterbacks in the league I would take over him.
He's good enough. He's definitely top 10, maybe top 5.
Yes. Barkley, one of the best running backs in the league.
Definitely top 2 or 3 running backs in the league.
Brooks, AJ. Now we're talking about Brown being gone, but he's been here now. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith together.
Very good wide receiver. Maybe one of the best 1-2
combinations. Whatever.
Dallas Goedert, very, very good.
So the line had its problems this year because of injury, moving guys around, whatever. But it wasn't. There's worse lines. It wasn't like they were a worse line in the league by any means. They weren't as great as they were, the years past, but they were still okay. That kind of offense shouldn't have lost the games they lost. They went 3-3 in a bad division.
Yeah,
that's not good. And I know the last game was Washington. They didn't try, but their backups. Washington was bad enough to lose to their backups, and they didn't. They lost to the Giants, who were god awful. They lost to Dallas, who wasn't very good either. They almost
lost to Dallas in the opening.
Yeah. I mean, they had some bad. Now they had some good wins. Don't get me wrong. Beating Buffalo was impressive. Buffalo
Wasn't the offense.
No, it wasn't. But I'm saying like this team did not. This was a bad year, and I thought they could. I thought they were going to correct it, and they didn't. They got just as bad. They lost to San Francisco.
Listen, anytime you have championship DNA, and that's what. Even though I tried to turn a blind eye to these struggles because A, I knew they had talent. B, they were the defending champions, and a lot of times, okay, the playoffs is a different animal. Okay, guys, pull yourself. I remember when I played for the Stars, and we moved to Baltimore, and it was chaos because we were practicing in Philly, and we had to play our games in College Park, Maryland. So we had to drive to those games. It was actually easier to get on the plane and go to away games. So there was a lot of road time there, and we struggled. I think we had to win 5 of our last 6 games to make the last slot of the playoffs after winning the USFL championship in '84. But we rallied because once we got into the playoffs, we knew we were going to be a tough out. We knew we had the players that could win a championship. We went on the road and we beat Herschel Walker in New Jersey. We beat Birmingham. We had a great team that year. And we beat Bobby Hebert and Oakland, the team that was in Michigan the first year. And they had Anthony Carter. They had Ray Bentley. They had some great players. And we won because we knew we had championship DNA. I held on to that with the Eagles because they do have championship DNA. But the bottom line is they just couldn't overcome the offensive inadequacies to win another game.
The defense didn't play great yesterday either.
Well, they didn't have a pass rush.
Right.
They did some bad things in the defensive backfield. Of course, we talked about Mitchell getting the 2 picks, and that certainly helped. But so we got to wrap this up, and it's kind of a sad ending because Mark, you and I are used to working into February with the bird brains. I think our producer Joe Jemmy is sad too, even though it's a lot more work for him. But
we had a great year, though, Ken.
We did have a good year. We had some great guests this year. We plan to do as good or better with this next year. I certainly want to thank our sponsors. Again, a big shout out to Joe Gangemi of Sweet Recording Studios. He does a great job of pulling this all together. Chris Wilhelm of Citywide Mortgage has been a great Jersey Man client for years, and I'm so proud that he sponsors this podcast, along with Tony DiGirolamo of DiGirolamo Financial, and Kelly of Your Sleep Mattress Boutique came on this year. We're very appreciative of them. And partner, I'm appreciative of you. You brought us some great guests this year. You're a well-respected person, even though you're retired.
I don't know why. I really don't know.
But everybody seems to want to jump on with you. I don't think I have much to do.
Well, you get Dick Vermeil. You got the guys from you get some
back in the dinosaur era.
Ray Didinger and Dick Vermeil and some of those guys. John Bunning. So they were pretty good too. But yeah, we had great guys. Doug Peterson was with us this year.
Yeah.
Seth Joyner, Barrett Brooks. I don't want to
forget Derek Gunn was a
Derek
good
Gunn,
guest.
Elliot Shore Parks.
Right.
Who do you have?
We had Reggie Wilkes.
Oh, Mike Sielski last week. Reggie
Sielski was good. Yeah.
So we had a good year. We had some really
good guests, and appreciate working with you. We plan to do it again next year. If you like the podcast,
you never know.
Yeah, please like and subscribe, and tell all your friends about the Bird Brains with Ken and Mark, and we hope to see you next year. So for our producer Joe Gangemi and my co-host Mark Eckel, this is Ken Dunek. Enjoy your off season, everybody. We'll see you next year for more of the Bird Brains with Ken and Mark. Take care.